Hello and welcome everyone to our first ever interview on the NARSA podcast. I am Gary Gillan and I'm your host for today, and I'm delighted to be joined by Colin Stewart, Rangers Football Club's director responsible for both the Rangers Youth Development Company and the former Players Benevolent Club. Colin, thank you very, very much for joining us today, and congratulations on being the inaugural interviewee on our network.
I'm greatly honoured, Gary. First of all, thank you very much to you and the NARSA members for inviting me on. It's a great honour to be on chatting to you, and especially to be the first interviewee. Delighted.
It's very poignant. It's very poignant. So how has COVID been affecting your life since last year?
Do you know, it's interesting? We back in March last year, my team were obviously in Ibrox, and we wrote a letter. I laugh at it now. We wrote a letter to our customers, maybe about 13,000 customers, and we said, look, we're going to have to leave Ibrox. We'll be back in 3 weeks. And we genuinely thought we would be. And it's been a wee bit different. So we've kind of learned a new normal. I think we're all more or less working at home and the odd half a day in Ibrox. But it's very strange going into Ibrox and having literally every single car space, to take whatever you want. You can park wherever you are, and it's very strange seeing Ibrox the way it is just now.
Yeah, it really is. It's been an incredible turnaround for the world overall. So, notwithstanding COVID, let's get into the material of what we're going to talk about today. Just to give everybody a bit of an overview of the journey we're going to follow, we're going to ask Colin to go through a little bit of history of his with the club and his tenure, and then go through both portfolios that he is responsible for, and then work out how that fits in with NARSA overall. So just as a bit of an introduction, Colin, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your history with the club, how long you've been there, the journey to date, the evolution of the role or roles that you've performed to date?
Yeah, sure, delighted to. Well, first of all, I'm a Rangers fan from birth. My father tells me I was 3 when he took me to the first game. I obviously don't have any recollection of that. He thinks it was Clyde, but that's as far as we can remember. Obviously coming to Ibrox with various uncles and cousins, and anybody old enough to kind of take me. And Copeland was my favourite place to stand. I then progressed to a season ticket in the Copeland, and then when the club deck opened, I had a bond in the club deck. By that time, I was actually living in London. I was down there for about 15 years. But I still travelled up for certainly all the big games, just to fly up and stay overnight and fly back down again. And ironically, back in the 80s, I was a Rangers Pools agent, and I now have responsibility for Rangers Pools. So that's a bit ironic. And while I was down in London, we were thinking of coming back home, and I was invited for an interview with the Rangers Development Fund, as it was then, and obviously you can't turn down an invite to that role. And almost 20 years later, I'm still here, still going strong. So 12th of November, I will be 20 years at the club. So that's in a nutshell my life at Rangers.
Wow, 20 years for any
Absolutely.
tenure in any organisation is incredible. So perfect, that's terrific. So for those that don't know, can you tell us specifically what the Rangers Youth Development Company is, what it does, when it does it, why it does it, the benefits of it, and how it sits within the structure of Rangers Football Club?
Sure, yeah. When I first joined, it was called the Rangers Development Fund, and at the time, we sell, and we still do, a pile of products. I'll go through those quickly in a second, and the profits from those products go to. Back then, it just went to the club, and we could never really put a finger on where it went. It just went to the club, essentially. So I kind of thought, way back in 2001, my God, it's an eternity ago, the training centre was just being finished, actually, when I joined. Excuse me. So I kind of thought, look, I would like to say this is where the money goes. So at that point, I decided to, with obviously in connection with the club, we decided to change our donation towards the youth academy. So back in 2001. So I kind of wanted at that point to have the word youth involved. So we changed the Rangers Development Fund to the Rangers Youth Development Company. And what we do is we look after Rangers Lotto. That's our main cash cow, if you like. That's our main game. the half-time draw, the Union Jackpot, Stadium Bricks, Rangers Scratch Cars, draws, raffles, competitions, Rangers Pools as well, and our new, which we'll talk about in a second, our new Rangers Quiz, which is great fun. So we basically raise money for our youth programme, and just last week we gave another £450,000 to our academy, which we're delighted to do. And the money from Rangers Pools, the profit from Rangers Pools, that goes to stadium maintenance and upkeep, which is a bit of a nod to Rangers Pools revenue back in the sort of 60s, 70s, 80s. That's exactly where the Rangers Pools revenue went. It went to stadium maintenance. And after the Edwards disaster, Rangers Pools paid for, I mean, it's difficult to say how much, but certainly 60, 70% of the cost, if you like, of the 3 stands came from Rangers Pools. So delighted to be looking after Rangers Pools again, and so it's basically we sell a number of products to our fans, and the profits go to the club.
Is it fair to say that almost any marketable fundraising that's done on behalf of the club is through your organisation, or is there other parts of the organisation that would do fundraising efforts?
Well, I guess our charity foundation, our tremendous charity foundation, they obviously fundraise on behalf of the foundation. But I guess if we're talking about outright to the club in terms of fundraising, sitting here, I can't think, and I apologise if I've made a mistake here, I can't think of any other fundraising activities at the club other than RYDC. So we tend to pick up any sort of draws, raffles, competitions, that kind of thing. I have a gaming license, so that that covers a pile of activities, if you like. So
that's tremendous. So I noticed on the article on the Rangers website last week that since 2002, over £9 million has been raised. What are your highlights of the good that you've seen done with those funds over the past almost 20 years?
Yes, I mean, it's difficult to put a finger on one particular item, if you like. I'm not sure we probably could. I mean, what I would say is, Craig Mulholland and his team are doing a tremendous job up at the academy. I feel like I've seen pre and post, sort of the academy as it is just now, and our academy would rival any first team academy anywhere in the world. If you go up to our academy, if you didn't see the kind of like the young kids, you wouldn't realise it was a youth academy, because it's such a professionally run outfit. It's tremendous, and for me, I like to think that our funding has benefited the youths, and if you like, it's helped Craig and his staff push the boundaries. There's a lot more activities they're doing now. For example, during the lockdown, you probably noticed a lot of the kind of online webinars they're doing for the kids of an evening. They're having, master classes. Ali McCoist did one for strikers. I think Steve Davis did one recently. The manager did one on, a midfield masterclass, I think it was. Now, can you imagine if you're 8, 9, 10 years old and you're sitting watching Steven Gerrard, giving you a masterclass on, it's tremendous. These are the types of activities that the academy are doing just now. So I like to think that our revenue has allowed Craig to, just to push the boundaries and perhaps increase his coaching, number of coaches, and maybe the quality, etc., etc. And also, foreign trips for the kids as well. My nephew is in the under 13s. And I think he's been to something like 18 different countries at that age, with Rangers, and the experience he's getting at that age group is incredible, and I think RYDC funding is assisting quite a number of different activities that the academy are engaged in just now, so.
Yeah, that's amazing. And in terms of a feedback loop, is it such that you would donate £450,000 and then have a feedback loop in 6 to 12 months, for example, to say this is where it went and this is the good that's been done? Or is it more, we trust you know what you're doing with your business more than we do, and we know that it's going to a good cause?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I always position myself. If anyone asks me, I always say, look, I'm on the business side, if you like, of the academy. I'm not on the football side. I don't have anything to do. Craig and his team are experts in that field. That's their side. So I like to think that our job is raising money and giving it to Craig, and then obviously Craig's the expert. He knows what he's doing with how to spend that money wisely. I wouldn't even start to get involved in that side of it. That's Craig's expertise. So I think we can look at the academy just now and some of the kids coming through, you know, Nathan Patterson, tremendous prospect, Kai Kennedy, and, you know, Kieran Dixon, these guys, Liam King, they've all had first team experience this season, you know. So you know, I think just a glance at the academy just now, you can see it's coming on leaps and bounds, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I was going to ask what your big successes are, but I think just in general terms, the overall growth and maturity and quality of the academy product is the best way to summarise that.
I think so. I think just being able to, I mean, certainly when I joined, that, you know, that I was told actually by, you know, the board who you know, enlisted me, if you like, and they told me I was a last throw of the dice for the development fund. You know, it was struggling badly, and previously, as I was in London, you know, I was kind of in change management, that kind of thing, you know. So they needed change, and they needed it quickly, and I think the fact that, you know, over £9 million in funding and 20 years later, I'm still here. I would probably say that's probably one of my big successes, just keeping the company going, and because it certainly was about to fold. There's no question about it. You know, it was a kind of last throw of the dice when I was employed, and just to, you know, kind of see some of the kids coming through, because I've watched some of these kids, Billy Gilmer as well down in Chelsea. They were 8, 9, 10 years old. Ross McCrory, 8, 9, 10 years old, and look at them now, you know. So that gives me a great amount of joy that I played in the RYDC. All of the staff we played just our own little part, if you like. Nothing in terms of the coaching, but somewhere in the background, we've helped to contribute towards the growth of all these players, you know.
It must be a great feeling. It really must be.
It is.
Are there any areas that you've gotten involved in, or think back now and think, you know, that was a miss, wish we hadn't done that? And specifically where I'm coming from with this question is, you know, we're just about coming out of what, you know, people, you know, commonly refer to as the banter years in a horrific 10-year period. Has there been anything that you regret, that you think was just a bit more of a waste of time than it was ever anticipated to be?
I need to be careful what I say here.
Of course.
Do you know, to be honest with you, all I would really touch on there, you know, over the piece, I'm like any company or any business, you know, we've tried one or two products just to see if they would work, and they haven't worked out, you know, and we've tried adverts, for example, that the fans just haven't clicked with, and so we kind of learn from it and move on, you know. I can think of one area. It's a text competition. Text was a big thing maybe 10 years ago or something, and we tried a competition where the prize was 3 people to have lunch with Peter Lovenkrands, and they each got a signed top from Peter, etc. And would you believe we had something like 220 people apply for that competition? It was £1 an entry. And it blew us away, because we genuinely thought, you know, that was something that would do well for the club. So you know, some things you try and they just don't work, you know, for whatever reason. But it won't stop us trying, you know. It certainly won't.
Yeah, evolution, you know, trial and error.
Sure.
Approach. Yeah, tremendous. So just a wee while ago, you mentioned the Rangers quiz. Can you tell us a wee bit more about the Rangers quiz, and specifically what that would mean for the NARSA audience listening today?
Yes, of course. Well, during the first lockdown over here, you know, March to kind of like August, September, you know, we were all sitting at home, as it were, and everyone was doing quizzes. So we thought, let's do a Rangers quiz. Let's do an online Rangers quiz for Rangers fans. And so we got in touch with a Swedish company, believe it or not, who already had a product that we thought we could develop. And we enlisted my agency, and certainly 5-6 months worth of work to get the product that we have now. We're proud of it. It's a great product. The idea is, in time, it'll be shown at halftime on the big screens, and also in time it will be shown at halftime on Rangers TV. So perhaps before the game, or halftime, in fact. Now, in terms of NARSA members, there is no restriction at all for any NARSA member, wherever you are in the world. It's not a gaming product. It's not a gambling product. It's a quiz. It's a game of skill, if you like. So that's the beauty of Rangers Quiz. Anyone, anywhere in the world can play the Rangers Quiz. So it's just Rangers Quiz, all one word, rangersquiz.com. So I'd ask everybody to have a look at that, rangersquiz.com. Have a look, register, and have a bit of fun. Now, perhaps, Gary, we can talk later, because what I would like to do is introduce a NARSA-only quiz, or perhaps an overseas fan quiz, and to include NARSA and ORSA, who knows. I guess the timing of it is an issue. We have our quizzes UK time, 8 o'clock Friday nights. So we've had 6 or 7 of, I think, now. So I'm not sure how that fits with NARSA members, depending on where you are, of course. Maybe it does. Maybe it's lunchtime somewhere. Maybe it's 1 o'clock. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I'd certainly be interested in running a NARSA only, a NARSA stroke ORSA, for example, only quiz. Maybe it's a monthly thing we talk about. Maybe it's, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon over here that suits you guys. But maybe that's something we can look at again, because it's certainly something I'd love to do. I'd love to have a NARSA only quiz.
Yeah, I mean, anything we can do to help promote the work that you folks are doing would be absolutely something that we would want to talk about. Time zones is something that's surmountable. You know, maybe combining ourselves with ORSA might be a wee bit more difficult in terms of time zones, but doing a bit of research in terms of a sweet spot there is something that I think would be absolutely something we'd love to try and just get the folks a bit more engaged.
Yeah, absolutely, because certainly the people who are playing, you know, and the first one we had, we did it on the Heart and Hands website, and our friend David Edgar won first prize. Well done, David. But thankfully, what he did was he then put the top, that was a Rangers Sing top actually, he put it up for auction, for raffle, and raised over £3,200 for RYDC. So tremendous. So, but the quiz itself, 18 questions, 15 seconds a question. It's fast and furious. And at the end of the day, you'll learn something about Rangers. I guarantee you. Every week, that's the one thing that people are saying. For example, last week, no one realised that Barry Ferguson only won 1 Scottish Cup. So it's there you go. You've learned something new.
I have indeed.
But it's great. So it's certainly something, you know. As I say, rangersquiz.com. It starts UK time, 8 o'clock every Friday night. If that suits time wise. If not, I'm sure Gary, we can talk about a more suitable time perhaps for NARSA. But that's something for your members to have a wee look at. It's good fun, and all profit goes to our academy. You can't lose.
Superb. Yeah, that sounds great. Definitely a conversation for the future, and for the folks that are interested in checking it out just now, as Colin says, rangersquiz.com. I was going to just absolutely berate Mr. Edgar for emceeing the first quiz and then winning, but I kind of feel a bit bad doing that now that he's raised over £1,500.
He did.
Yeah,
Yes, he did. It was great.
He
couldn't. It was. He actually, do you know something as well? He scored. I think from memory, he scored 18 out of 18, and it's a timed quiz as well. So each question he was answering in something like 3.2 seconds, and he got all 18 correct. It was almost as if he knew the answers, and he didn't, because he certainly didn't. The questionnaire, Q, we call him Q. No one knows who he is except me, and. So it's everyone was, because David hosted the quiz, if you like, everyone was accusing him of. He certainly, I can assure you, didn't have any answers, you know. So all good fun.
I guess not to divulge any secret information, but one kind of blatant question that I'm sure listeners are wondering about: is Q David Edgar?
No, he is not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Definitely not. No, Q is someone who has a research background, a media background, and I'll give you a wee clue as well. It doesn't live on the mainland. So there you go. That's definitely not David Edgar.
Okay, that's intriguing. We might revisit that in the future.
Andy has a law degree. So there you go.
Wow. Okay, folks will be writing stuff down and trying to get yes now. I love it. That's perfect. So great stuff. Yeah. So from a next steps perspective, we're more than happy to have that conversation, Colin.
Excellent.
See if we can work some stuff out. So moving on to the Former Players Benevolence Club, and I just noticed actually just this morning at the time of recording, we're recording this on the 4th of February at just after 7 p.m. UK time. And I noticed today on social media that a beneficiary of some help and support was a former player, Scott Nisbet, who, as a lot of people will know, was suffering from quite acute cancer and complications and stuff over the last week while. So to get him some support is an amazing achievement and something that's I'm sure he appreciates as well. So in light of that, for those that don't know about the Former Players Benevolence Club, can you tell us specifically what that is, what it does, and why?
Yeah, of course. The Former Players Benevolent Club was launched by Sandy, God rest his soul, Colin Jackson, God rest his soul, Peter McCloy, and John Gregg. And the 4 of the guys ran it for probably about 10 years. And really it was set up to look after, I guess, medical expenses, any financial requirements from some of the players who perhaps played in the kind of late 50s at the time, 60s, who did not earn money from football and had to have jobs when they left football, etc. But were still, maybe even some of them were on the Hall of Fame at Ibrox, but had to work, because football really didn't pay at all well in the 60s and 70s, to be honest. Yeah. So really, the benevolent club was set up to kind of look out for a lot of our former players who, household names to Rangers fans, but perhaps required a bit of help and were too proud to go elsewhere to look for it. So obviously when, Sandy and Colin passed away, John came to see me one day. John Guy came to see me one day, and he came in and he sat down. We were having a chat for about half an hour, and he started laughing. He says, "You're probably wondering why I'm here," because he hadn't said. He just came in and was having a cup of tea, and then he asked me, "Look, would I look after the fund on behalf of John and Peter?" And delighted to, honoured to, So what we do is we raise money through fans. We don't really do many activities, because the one thing I don't want to do is clash with our charity foundation club. Our foundation does some great work, and the last thing we want is two charities, if you like, at the stadium having dinners and bike rides and all, etc., etc. So I've said, look, I won't clash at all with the charity foundation. I would never do that. So we basically take a back seat in terms of fundraising and really just rely on fan donations and RSCs, have a night or whatever they may do, and perhaps send a donation our way, etc. And we survive that way, if you like. It's a funny charity. It's an unusual charity because we can't really telegraph what we do. We can't really tell everybody, oh, such and such has just had a medical treatment and we've paid for it. It's private, it's personal, etc. But what I can tell you is we do. I mean, he won't mind me telling you this because we were able to do it while he was still with us. The late Tom Forsyth, Tom, God rest his soul. We looked after his knee. Tom had to retire through a knee injury, and it happened on Rangers watch, if you like. He was actually training in the Albion when it happened. And his career was finished because of his knee. So we got Tom into a private hospital and got a complete knee rebuild, and he was brand new again after that. And we were able to help him, just before the end as well, sort of thing. And another thing we do is, again, we would never telegraph this, but we help out with funeral costs, etc., etc. So there's a lot of stuff we do behind the scenes. Yeah. But we just sort of trust that, look, guys, it's John Gregg, it's Peter McCloy, and myself, we look after it. Please trust us. We're looking after your money well. And it's a great charity. I love looking after it. I'm helping guys who I watched. It's that doesn't get any better from guys who I've now got them. They phone me up, on my mobile, and I thought, God, I remember watching you scoring against Hibs. It's tremendous, So it's a labour of love for me, to be honest with you,
That's tremendous, and just talking about people, former heroes, I guess, or current heroes, phoning you up. When you mentioned casually there that John stopped by for a cup of tea,
yes,
I'm sure everyone was thinking, John who, and then you have to throw in John Gregg.
Mr. Gregg, number one.
Yeah, number one for sure.
Do you know some strange things? Sorry, Gary. Some strange things happen. I was working in my office, maybe a year and a bit ago now, maybe 2 years actually, and there was a knock on the door, and George Alberts popped his head round, and he came in and sat down, and he had two guys from Germany. He was helping out a kind of club over in Germany, and he wanted a kind of chat about youth programs and how could I help them, etc. So we sat down. We ended up going for lunch in Glasgow and said, so strange things happen, and I still get a feeling of, oh my God, this is this is a guy I idolise and I watched, and I scored countless goals against Celtic, etc., etc. So I still get that little bit of, like, control yourself, don't stumble over your words, etc. So I'm just a fan who got lucky, absolutely no question.
No, that's tremendous. you can feel the enthusiasm through everything you're talking about here, Colin. It's actually a bit of a buzz to speak to you about this sort of stuff. So with regards to the Benevolence Club, and I know that a lot of it would be shrewd and confidential and respectful of the people's circumstances at the time. Is there anything that you could describe to us in terms of your biggest successes or things that have been the most poignant, in addition to what you've mentioned already?
Do you know, I think a bit like RYDC, you know, I think maintaining sufficient funding to ensure that we're able to look after all the many former players who do look for assistance, because there are many players who we hear through the grapevine. You know, someone will stop me in Ibrox and say, listen, have you heard that such and such is struggling with a knee, or he needs a cortisone injection, or he's got a sore back, and they're too proud to come and ask. They're just too proud. So what I tend to do is I'll get a phone number, or if they're at the stadium, if they're at the game, I'll just go up and stand beside them and nudge them and say, can we have a chat? And I say, oh yeah, and they'll know why I'm there, you know. So I'll say, right, how can we help you? They say, no, I'm fine. No, how can we help you? It's just you and me. How can we help you? And that's how we do it, to be honest with you. So I think because we don't fundraise as such, we rely on fan donations. You know, I think just you know, John, Peter, myself, just ensuring that we do have enough funds to keep everything going. And I think what's important for me and John and Peter is to make, you know, to let all the former players realise that they are still in our thoughts. You know, they are still part of the Rangers family, that we haven't forgotten about. And just because they're in their 70s or 80s, you know, or 60s, whatever, it doesn't matter. They played for Rangers. You know, some of these guys are on the Hall of Fame, you know, and we want them to feel that, look, the Former Players Benevolent Club is there. It's there for you, and we're here to look out for you. And what do you need? How can we help you? So that's really what the Benevolent Club is all about, you know.
Tremendous. And so just to that, in terms of fans' donations, how best could NARSA or any overseas bears, for that matter, help contribute to the funds?
Yeah, I mean, without sounding crass, you know, I mean, if NARSA clubs and the members, I guess, could just think of the RFPBC, Rangers Former Players Benevolent Club, when you're making charity donations, if you've got a little night going somewhere in a club, you know, think of us, and because, you know, certainly we'll put the money to tremendous use. It will go to a former player. As I say, we rely on fan donations, and the best way to do it, if everybody has a pen there, it's if you can think of the first letter of each of the words. So it's Rangers Former Players Benevolent Club. So it's rfpbc.org, rfpbc.org, Rangers Former Players Benevolent Club.org. That's the website. There's a donate button on there. So simply hit the button, and we'll take, you know, $1, $5, $10, whatever anyone can afford. We'd be delighted to accept that. And I can assure you, John, Peter, myself would greatly appreciate any donations at all on behalf of our former players.
Outstanding. That's tremendous.
Great.
So changing gears a wee bit,
yes.
and you know, the intent of this is to highlight the great work that's being done within the club from your department. And I know that both yourself and Peter McCloy were booked up and looking forward to coming to San Francisco 2020. And at the time, the last time we chatted before COVID really became a material thing in everyone's lives was you were still trying to convince Mr. Greg to come over, and at the time I think we just went through a bit of a knee issue or something, and he said no, I can't. But what did you guys have planned for San Francisco 2020 in terms of you know exposing more of the remit that you're in there, and you know, engagement with the fans? Was there something specific that you had targeted?
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, Peter and I were seriously looking forward to it. We booked fairly late, so therefore the only two rooms that were left in the hotel, I think, were two extremely large rooms with amazing views over water. You know, I think we had suites, so we had premium seats in the plane because it was the only two left. We seriously were looking forward to the San Francisco trip, you know. So to be honest with you, Gary, we were really just coming across to highlight the former players and just to kind of let people see that we're there. We were bringing literature across. I had to bin all of it. I had a kind of pop-up, roll-up banners ready. San Francisco, the bridge in the background, etc. We had leaflets to hand out, etc. And to be honest, we were really just going to be there to say more or less what we've been talking about. Look, this is who we are. This is what we do. Do you have a spare $1, $5? We'd love to put it to good use to our former players. And really, the idea of Peter being there was, he's over 500 games for Rangers. He's on the Hall of Fame board. He is a Rangers legend, and I had a chat to him last night, and you were obviously coming on today. I phoned Peter last night, and his comment was, assuming my fitness is still with me, I'll be delighted to come to Las Vegas. So Peter's up for that. So, and I certainly am as well, if everything still goes to plan.
Ideal.
So,
Yeah, that's great. That was going to be my next question, actually, because I know that
right.
from our preparation conversations that you had already received permission from your wife to come to Las Vegas in 2022. So in terms of your plans for that event, similar to what the intent was for 2020?
Yeah, I should first of all confirm that I've only been given permission by my wife because she's coming with me. That was the first stipulation. If you're going, I'm going. You know, we love Vegas. We do. We love Vegas. So I'll have to tell Peter that you're going to have to bring your wife. You know, his wife's going to have to come. So we'll come over as a foursome. You know. So I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, we'll just map exactly what we were going to do in San Francisco. I'll get more roll-ups made. We'll get some leaflets made. We'll talk to as many people as we can. And, I mean, we're not going there with a begging bowl. We're not bringing cans for people to put money in. It's nothing to do with that sort of thing. You know, it's really just to kind of raise awareness of who we are and what we do. And we are a registered charity, and all of the funds go to, I mean, I've mentioned Tom Forsyth there. I can tell you without naming names, we're helping 1, 2, 3 other former well-known Rangers players right now as we speak with treatment, medical treatment. We spoke about Scott Nisbet there. Scott's what a tremendous guy. Scott is incredibly positive about his issues. He's still got a fight ahead of him, but he's winning, as we all know Scott will. So we were able to raise funds for Scott. I don't know if you remember David Hagan, Sadler David passed away. You know, the former player started a Just Giving page for David, and we raised over £17,000 for David's family. So that's the kind of thing we do for players who, as I say, you know, they didn't earn a great amount of money. You know, it's and we like to think we're there to help and do what we can to provide any assistance. So that's the kind of message we'll be hopefully coming to Vegas to speak to everyone about, without boring everyone, but you know, hopefully it'll be relevant. You know.
Well, definitely will be, and stuff like this is timeless. It never goes away, of course, as well. So that's great. Any specific memories of previous NARSA trips while we're talking about NARSA?
Do you know, I've got a great story and I can't tell you. I shouldn't have said that. I've got a great story with Mr. McCoy's in San Francisco last time. In fact, I'll tell you one I can tell you about, Ali. You know, at the top table, we just finished having our food. Jim Hanna was sitting next to Ali, then I was sitting next to Jim. And I can't remember who it was from the San Francisco committee. Came up and I heard him say to Ali, we just finished our food. There's a whole hall full of people. Yes. Ali, would you mind signing 1 or 2 autographs? And Alice said, yeah, sure. So at that point, we kind of all broke up, and I stood up and I saw Richard Goff, and I went over and I had probably a 20-minute chat with Richard. And then I started going around the tables. I saw some people I knew from back home, whatever. I probably took an hour going around the tables, talking to everyone. And I got back, and would you believe Ali was still signing autographs? People were walking up, and anything they could find, they were just shoving it in front of Ali. Ali's hand, he'd cramp, he'd try his left hand, his right hand. And he says, I'm going to have to try my feet here. People were, later at night, people were up dancing, and on their shirts, Ali had signed their shirts because they had nothing left to give him to sign. Women had their dresses, Ali's signature on their dresses. Yeah. And next thing, Ali felt obliged because somebody asked him, somebody said, I'll give you $1,000 for your club, because we all had club suits on. Yeah. So Ali looked at his suit and said, okay. So Ali then had to go upstairs and come back down with the other clothes on because someone bought his club suit for $1,000, which I thought was a bargain, to be honest with you. I thought it was a great bargain. So there's somewhere potentially out there listening, you know, saying, that was me. I've got that suit. You know, so great time, great memory. Ali, what a guy. He would have been signing, you know, a year later. Ali's a tremendous guy. Great guy.
I completely agree. I was there that night, Colin. And
yes, I remember. It
was over 2.5 hours that he stood in the line, and people patiently waited
amazing, isn't it?
To do that. What I would like to do is do a shout out at who, if anyone knows who bought Ali's suit, could you please get in touch and just let us know? I think that would be a great story.
I'd love to know where it was. Yeah,
well, exactly what they've done with it. You know? Well, that's a great story. That's a great story.
Stories. Yeah.
Excellent. So, just before we get to wrap up here, I want to throw some quick questions at you on what I'm going to call here the quick fire round. So, in terms of the kind of fast and furious approach that we have on the Rangers quiz, I'm going to do the same. And after these questions, people will know a wee bit more about you that they didn't know before we started. So, first and foremost, and answer them as quickly as you can. If someone were to play you in a movie, who would it be and why?
Clint Eastwood, because he's old and craggy.
What was the very last text that you sent?
I can't show you. It's to my wife. She asked me to go and get some food and pick up some dog food, and I've replied, "What kind of dog food?" That's literally what it says.
Okay.
Sorry, nothing interesting there. Sorry.
Who is your favourite ever player who never played for Rangers?
Zidane, without a question. Love the guy. Class.
Excellent. Yeah. The Stones or the Beatles?
Stones. Never been a Beatles fan. Don't get them. Don't get them. Sorry, guys. Sorry, everyone.
I'm going to try and get that. I'll get this part edited out if I can. Then, obviously.
Well, having said that, fun enough, earlier on today, I was out for a run, and on my AirPods, I had Wings Over America. So Paul McCartney. So there you go. Maybe I do like the Beatles. Maybe I do.
Okay, we'll call that one a tie then.
Yeah,
the last one. Have you ever delivered a baby?
Came close to it once, my sister in the room next door, and we all panicked. And my uncle, who had a bit of experience, he did it, and we stayed outside the room. So almost, but not quite. I was there for the birth of both of my children. But yeah, nice. I certainly have nothing to do with it, trust me.
Okay. I love it. So just to wrap up here, Colin, that was a lot of fun. Thank you. Just to wrap up, I know that people in the club are sworn to not anticipating what's going to happen in terms of 55 and when it comes. But so I know that you can't speak about it, but hypothetically, if Rangers were to win 55, how, if at all, does that change any of the focus of your existing portfolio?
Yes. Do you know, all I can really say here is that, you know, when I joined, Dick Advocaat was the manager. So I watched all the Dutch players. You know, when I arrived at Rangers, you know, the De Boer brothers were here. Arthur Newman was here. You know, Michael Malls and Fernando, God rest his soul. You know, I watched those guys. I was here when Alex McLeish won 7 trophies in 5 years. I've seen Helicopter Sunday. I was here for that. I watched Arteta put that penalty away for 6-1 to win. I've seen doubles. I've seen trebles. At the Lovencrans Scottish Cup final, I was lucky enough to be at the aftermatch, the party back at Ibrox with the players, and I danced with the Scottish Cup on my head. So all of that. I've also had incredibly bad times, and that's probably another pod. Those forgotten years, shall we call them? You know, that's certainly something I don't want to talk about today. But so I've seen dark times, and I've seen great times, and I can say without a word of hesitation that winning is much better for RYDC and its revenues. Absolutely no question. So I'm not sure if that quite answers your question, but winning is much better for business. There's absolutely no question, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you and me both, my friend. You and me both. So, is there anything else you'd like to leave us with in terms of messaging that we maybe haven't covered today, Colin?
Do you know, all I would say, Gary, is, you know, I'm delighted to invite me on today. It's given me an opportunity to talk all things RYDC and the former Players Benevolent Club. You know, all I could say to your members, please keep an eye on everything that RYDC does. I mean, simply, we're rydc.co.uk. That's our website. And obviously, keep an eye on everything the former players does. And if, you know, NARSA members can still buy stadium bricks, you can still play Rangers quizzes, etc. So there are products that we have that NARSA members can do. And certainly, you know, if you're doing any fundraising, you know, the odd dollar here and there towards rfpbc.org would be greatly appreciated.
Perfect. And where can people find you personally on social media?
At rfc.colin. RFC underscore Colin. Yes. Sorry. RFC underscore Colin. That's me.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, thank you very, very much for your time and all the information you've shared today, Colin. It's been an absolute pleasure once again to speak to you, and I hope that everyone else out there enjoyed the show. And if there are any comments, queries or questions, you have the contact details for both myself and for Colin directly to raise any issues or queries or comments that you would like as we move forward. So thanks again, Colin.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Thanks.
Stay safe.
You too. Thank you. Bye.